About a year ago, he was expected to be preparing at this point in January for possibly a first-round selection in the NFL draft. But it looks like another year of college football for one of college football's best and most prolific quarterbacks. Welcome into On the Move right here at the Voice of College Football, our recruiting and transfer portal update, going live to the Alamo Dome once again today with Leanne Herring, our recruiting analyst here at the Voice of College Football, also, of course, director of recruiting at the Rebel Walk. Leanne, how you doing today?
Doing good. Staying warm. I know you guys can't hear it, but the cold winter weather has definitely hit Texas. Definitely an unexpected feeling. They moved the Navy All-American Bowl practices for both the East and the West today at Alamo Dome. It is pouring outside. The cool temperatures are definitely hitting. If you guys are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you're probably getting some snow. I know my kids are wishing that they are going to see some of that snow. So definitely the wintry weather has been hitting Texas hard. But again, it hasn't stopped the portal from going strong in the elements. The portal, as we know, Mark, officially closed 11 days ago, but that definitely hasn't slowed down. And like I said, we talked about it yesterday, when it seems just to be getting quiet and it just seems to kind of being on ease. Here we go within 24 hours. Like you said, probably one of the most decorated quarterbacks, a two-time national champion. Carson Beck was supposed to be preparing for the NFL, after, of course, his story taking a different turn in Georgia, having to sit out due to an injury and, spending this time this offseason rehabbing. But it looks like he's not going to go to the NFL despite rehabilitation and not being a problem. He definitely has decided that he's going to test the waters in the college football free agency, and he is definitely the story of today's headliner for the portal updates and move. Carson Beck is opting out of the NFL draft to test the waters. And you were kind of mentioning, we both kind of talked to our sources and everything, and it looks like he's not going to stay in the SEC. Now, we haven't confirmed either, but you and I reached out, and it looks like things could be getting down in hot in South Florida with Mario Cristobal. It looks like the Miami Hurricanes are definitely looked to acquire Carson Beck this offseason, as he's decided to forego the NFL draft despite his injury. We're hearing, of course, when you hear a quarterback of his elite nature, obviously facing injury, and but that doesn't seem to be an issue. And it looks like Mario Cristobal and the Miami Hurricanes are going to be on the move with him. And I don't know what you're hearing as far as NIL, but we're hearing about roughly $2 million as the starting bid to acquire his services. So again, Mark, you're always good at breaking down the numbers, as you can see, pretty productive, definitely in the last two seasons as a Georgia Bulldog.
Carson Beck is a guy that was so rock solid in 2023 as Georgia just came within one score of going to the college football playoffs as an undefeated football team, of course, after they lost to Bama in the SEC championship game. That, I produced a video just a few days before the season started where every outlet I could find online, whether that was a scouting, an NFL draft site, anyone that does any kind of quarterback rankings with legitimacy, ranked him the number one quarterback. He was the top rated consensus quarterback in college football entering this season. Did he have a bad season? No, he did not have a bad season, but he really didn't progress off of that strong 2023 season. You see his interceptions went from 6 to 12 as he really struggled mid-season. 24 touchdowns the previous season to 28. The completion percentage dropped. Now, Georgia did lead the nation in dropped passes. Does that speak to all of that percentage drop in completion percentage? No, he didn't play as well. And so I'm sure it would have been kind of a difficult decision for him had he not gotten injured, because he was looking at being the number one quarterback coming into this season. But obviously Cam Ward had an exceptional season. Shedeur Sanders passed him up on most scouts' boards. And so he was looking at more like a third to fourth to fifth position in quarterback selections in the NFL draft. But I got to say, once he got injured, and we're looking at an injury that may keep him out through the spring, we'll see how that progresses. He's obviously opting to stay in college football, get himself healthy, get himself right, and then approach the pros fully focused and ready to meet that challenge. And so I think it's a wise decision for Carson Beck. And obviously, Miami, used to that exceptional quarterback play for the first time in years that they got out of Cam Ward, would like to not regress at the quarterback position, and reaching out to Carson Beck. All right, Leanne, next up, we were going to discuss some more Oregon. The Ducks seem to be popping up in your notes just about every day here. And one of their defensive linemen, Mikhail Gardner, is possibly moving on.
Yes, he's one of the guys who just freshly hit the portal. He's one of those under the radar guys, really, during his time at Oregon. Again, really hasn't found his place after 2 seasons with the Ducks. So we haven't got any early rumblings as far as where he's looking to go or who might be interested. But again, he's another D lineman with a lot of upside and potential. Really hasn't had his place to shine down in Oregon, but definitely looking for a home. So this will be like I said, when it comes to the players and the athletes that are definitely high value and high commodity. We've said it a lot. Quarterbacks, which of course we hit at the top of the show, but the defensive and offensive linemen definitely are going to be ones to watch. So it's going to be an interesting recruitment to see if McCall Gardner will remain at Oregon or he's going to test the waters. But again, a lot of teams in the market for definitely creating some depth for those trenches, and McCall Gardner definitely looking for a home where he can finally find his place and his footing to shine. And like I said, that's been a storyline between players looking to plague injury and look for a new place. But then, the second headline that we're always talking about when we talk about some of these top guys coming out of high school, are just kind of looking for their place where they can finally show what they can do and kind of live up to that initial hype when they made their transition from high school. So McCall Gardner out of Oregon, definitely looking after 2 seasons in Eugene to try to test the waters and see where he can find a new home to find his shine and see where he can be productive, and definitely upped his draft stock, down the line.
Leanne, when it comes to Gardner and also the next guy you're going to talk about, Chemo McAnally, they fit that profile of top level guy that obviously had offers all over the place, have been in college football now for 2 years at a major brand and haven't been able to break through. I was checking out Gardner's numbers and also McAnally. They've basically been special teams players that haven't been able to get on the 2 deep, get into the rotation along the defensive front. So McAnally, after 2 years at LSU, after 4 seasons at LSU, is looking to make a move.
He is. And the unique thing about him that you don't find a lot, especially in the SEC, is a lineman that plays both ways. And I think that that's definitely going to be a strong selling point after his 4 seasons as a Bayou Bengal down in Baton Rouge. He's seen time on not only the offense, but the defensive line. And, some of the things that we're hearing outside of football, you always want to ask players outside of football, especially when they hit the transfer portal, because it's such a speedy process. A lot of it is not of it's drawn out. And for those that are drawn out, we see that a lot of more factors are into play. But for the most part, these recruitments aren't like their traditional high school recruitments, like you said, coming out where there's years and months and there's a lot of time to build relationships. And for Chemo, one of the things that he said that he's looking for outside of football is just definitely a place where he can get a strong quality education. Academics is going to be important for his next stop, but also a place like we just talked about, in the case of Oregon's McCall Gardner, they're looking for a place where they can finally showcase their talent. A lot of them, like you said, they just kind of get lost in the depth or found themselves on special teams, not necessarily on their specialization when they enter. So, he's also looking for a place where he not only can have a strong football career, but also build, for his future academically, but most importantly, a place where he can really make an impact on the next team. So he's definitely going to be a high commodity, like I said, because he's a rarity. Has SEC experience for 4 years. So he definitely brings consistency, leadership to the program. And like I said, when you can get a lineman who's experienced on defensive and offensive side of the ball, even if it's been limited, that's still a very unique situation. So we're hearing that Rich Rodriguez might be able to land him. And it looks like West Virginia has the early pull, and there is a visit in the works. We haven't got a confirmed date, but yes, for a top SEC player, 2-way lineman, West Virginia California, and Rich Rodriguez look to be a match made in heaven.
And Leanne, one more note on Carson Beck. Mike Jeezy's bringing this up in the chat. We had this conversation about Carson Beck on our Miami show last night. Is that Carson Beck's girlfriend, and I know nothing about celebrity couple situations, so I'm new to this one. I guess his girlfriend, who is part of some type of there are two twin sisters that I guess you can't really tell them apart, but he is going out with one of those two, and they are volleyball players, I believe, at the University of Miami. And
Well,
so
there you
there's
go.
a connection there as well, is that he's dating a girl who attends the University of Miami. So
And she's an athlete, like I said. What do I always say almost every show? One of my popular lines, that when it comes to recruiting, relationships mattered. And often those, as much as we talk about programs being able to sell, the program side of things, the NIL, sometimes it's those relationships, whether it be those personal relationships, with his girlfriend being a fellow athlete there, someone who understands the process in a different sport, or between coaches, and athletes. And like I said, a lot of the time we also see another big storyline where relationships are concerned are these players hitting the portal as coaching changes go. So again, like I said, when we thought that things were going to be quiet, they hit us with the burst today, Mark. Like I said, putting one of the top QBs back in the portal.
Coastal Carolina has been looking to replace the most prolific quarterback in the history of the Sun Belt Conference. Of course, Grayson McCall, who went to NC State last year, and they pick up quarterback Emmett Brown from San Jose State. You see his numbers there: 16 touchdowns, 5 picks, as he threw for about 1,600 yards with San Jose State. And the Spartans last year going to Coastal Carolina. Of course, much attention to the college football playoff the next 2 nights, and Friday's game is Texas-Ohio State, and a lot of people consider that the de facto national championship game. And one guy that's going to have a unique perspective on that matchup, Leanne, is going to be Damon Wilson.
Damon Wilson was one of the top edge rushers coming out of high school, former 5-star. Definitely will have his eyes on the Cotton Bowl, just hitting the market. What teams are in the mix? Well, it seems that Ohio State is definitely in the lead to try to land a visit, and definitely on his radar, but don't hold your breath, because on the other side of the ball, the Texas Longhorns and Steve Sarkisian are definitely going to make a push for the talented former 5-star edge rusher. And then we're also hearing Penn State is battling with Ohio State to get a visit and also to get on his radar. So definitely 3 programs that are finding success. Of course, we've talked about Penn State, really utilizing the portal this season to be able to build on a transfer roster. So again, Texas, Penn State battling along with Ohio State, who appears to be the front runner for former 5-star edge rusher Damon Wilson. Of course, we know that this season he had 22 tackles, 13 solos, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries. And an interesting connection is that we've talked a lot about Ole Miss signing Winnie Watkins, who's been here at the Navy All-American Bowl out of Venice, Florida, and former 5-star edge rusher Damon Wilson is also a product out of Venice High School, who just won their championship again this season. So definitely coming out of an elite high school program that develops top athletes across the country. So it'll definitely be interesting to see. But all eyes for Damon Wilson on the Cotton Bowl, Texas, Ohio State, and then Penn State, making a push as well.
Now, Iowa missed out on Mark Gronowski's teammate, wide receiver. There was some thought that he would go along with Gronowski to Iowa, but he actually signed at Northwestern. But Iowa does get a wide receiver commit from Chattanooga. And again, go back to our Iowa show, folks, with Corey Brad on Tuesday nights. We talked about this. He was projecting this. That's announced here just a couple hours ago. Chattanooga wide receiver transfer Sam Phillips has committed to Iowa. There you see prolific stats. 800 yards plus this year, more than 2,000 yards in his last 3 years at Chattanooga. But that leads us into, of course, this is Leanne's list of winners for this week in the transfer portal. And Iowa probably found its best quarterback that they've had in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, Groundsky definitely. We talked a lot about him when he first came on the board. We knew that he was definitely going to be a top QB that was going to go, and where would he land? He definitely was a high value player that has found his home at Iowa. So like I said, kind of something a little bit different, Mark, since like I said, 11 days closed in the portal, but definitely plenty of rumbling, still a lot of action. So I kind of wanted to go about the storylines for who's winning and who's losing in the portal. Moving on, I think we've talked a lot about it. The Georgia Bulldogs, Kirby Smart, despite the storyline not ending the way he intended, he's definitely always been the guy, the coach, to be able to utilize and make good things out of a situation. We know that Georgia's wide receiver room definitely was one of those things he needed to call attention to. So, going over to the portal wide, Georgia wide receiver room upgrade. I think that that's been a huge win and a good topic for Georgia this week. Of course, a name that we talked a lot about, a kid that I've watched, really grown and flourish from Clear Springs, Texas to Texas A&M, and now, of course, to Athens as a Georgia Bulldog. Noah Thomas. I mean, talk about a big win for Kirby Smart in that wide receiver room upgrade. And I think, I talked a lot about, his frame being at 6'6", extremely speedy, of course, his catch radius. But I think the need that he really addressed as far as, being able to ink as a Bulldog was that the Georgia wide receiver room just really lacked exterior size. And I think that Noah Thomas is going to be that wide receiver that's going to come in and be able to help fill that void. So I think that's another big win. Of course, with Georgia coming in with elite skills on the outside, returning, Colby Young, Dylan Bell, London Humphreys, those are going to be some big guys that are going to be key players. But of course, I think the biggest win outside of Noah Thomas from the transfer portal was whoever was going to lead the win in the portal was going to be whoever landed elite blue chip brothers, Zion and Zachariah Breyer, Zachariah Branch. And Georgia wide receiver room is definitely glad they did. Like I said, Zachariah Branch is probably the fastest guy in college football right now, Mark. And I'm sure you can break down his numbers and talk about him. But again, I think that the Georgia wide receiver room in this leg of the winter transfer portal really filled the void quickly in upgrading this wide receiver room, obviously with the returners, but with the addition of adding Noah Thomas as an exterior size kind of guy to help fill that void. And of course, adding the speed and skill set of Zachariah Branch from USC.
Well, we've gone through the numbers with both Zachariah and Zion Branch the last several shows because we've been anticipating this move. I'll say this about Zachariah Branch. What's impressive about him, as Leanne said, arguably the fastest player in college football, is he's not like a track sprinter, set him out, go wide, or put him in the slot and shoot down the seam as just a straight go guy. He puts his foot in the ground and he's got a lot of wiggle and he can change directions in a hurry. So he's a jitterbug type runner as well, makes a lot of defensive backs look silly in space. So he's just not a long strider type. He's a shorter guy with a quick wiggle and able to change directions in a hurry. All right. We want to remind everyone that Leanne and I go live on a regular basis here, and we've called this update show On the Move. And so please subscribe, hit the bell for the notifications to know when we go live. I have dropped the link and will again to the recruiting channel here at the Voice of College Football. We just launched it just a few days ago. And so we are intending to post all sorts of content and live streams there as well. And we are simulcasting there as we speak. All right. We all were curious, Leanne, to figure out what type of approach Bill Belichick would take to college football. And it looks like he is taking his scouting eyes from years and years and years of scouting and trying to find those diamonds in the rough, because he is like uncovering all sorts of turf out there to find gems in the rough.
Yeah, one thing, of course, UNC was most talked about and boastful when they hired Bill Belichick was how are they going to acquire these players? I mean, obviously, we know that Bill Belichick, in and itself, his resume, his 6, 8 Super Bowl rings that he just has to show. I mean, he's a man of action versus, I mean, he looks good on paper and he looks good in president and all those type of things. But another thing that UNC boasted, obviously, was their exceptionally well endowed NIL fund, and that's what been a lot of question. They've had the opportunity, Casey Concepcion, a lot of other guys that were high profile recruits and made the visits, that they weren't able to ink. And there was that big question, where are they spending their NIL money? But I think Bill Belichick is kind of going back to his roots with his signature thing. Even when he was in the NFL, he was always looking for the guys when he was trying to, you know, get his roster and build his roster. He wasn't trying to go out and get the high profile guys. He was trying to get the guys that proved to be not only coachable team players, but guys that were going to be in the long haul. And often these times, we see that these guys don't come from your typical big programs. And I think Bill Belichick is using the same approach that we see him at UNC that he did, with his time with the Patriots in the NFL. He's thinking outside the box. He's when everybody's running away from the fire, Bill Belichick, he's that guy that's running towards the fire. He's always doing something different, thinking outside the box. And he's definitely done that in the recruiting portal. I mean, he's got some guys. We talked about the addition, obviously, of like Miles McVay on that offensive line, highly touted recruit. But most of his bread and butter and where he's really winning, and looking for players that he can develop, because definitely there's no salary cap. Money is not an issue when it comes to NIL down at UNC, but he's choosing to be smart and meticulous and looking not to spend all his money or put all his eggs in one basket. And we're going to see if the Bill Belichick way is going to continue. It's for to be fruitful at UNC. I mean, just looking at the numbers, he's taken from Group 5, four transfers from FCS, 3 transfers, and power conferences 4. So he's really trying to build his roster on, like you said, Mark, on those hidden gems. Similar to what he's done in the NFL. So we're going to see if this is going to be the answer to try to improve a UNC who's definitely been able to capture and get in, lure two legendary coaches. I mean, when Mac Brown left Texas and went into retirement, and UNC was able to get him, and then where were they going to go? Well, I mean, they pretty much did the same thing, getting another legend out of retirement. I don't know any school that I think has been able to do that back to back, to get 2 high profile coaches out of retirement, and Bill Belichick, obviously, and Mac Brown, and now Bill Belichick. But I thought that's an interesting approach. And like I said, I think that this might be the way to go for UNC, versus trying to go chase a lot of waste their money, because again, been very transparent down in Chapel Hill that money is not an issue. It is no problem that they're willing to do it, but they have yet to really spend on anything. But they've definitely got their bread and butter going, looking at the guys, like you said, that maybe not everybody else is giving a chance to. But like I always say, Mark, when the guys that we see that have really had long careers at the next level, that have really panned out, they're not from your power schools. They're from FCS Group 5s. So I like the way that Bill Belichick, and I think that this is going to be this is an interesting approach, but I kind of like the direction that he's going. Get out some gritty guys, and obviously we've seen what they can do in Chapel Hill, but I think that kind of getting some guys out there, some dogs as we like to call them here, and in the football realms, just getting some gritty guys that willing to play raw and that you can develop, that may not be asking and focused on NIL. They want to go win, and they want to get some playing time. So I think this is a really interesting thing to watch, if the Bill Belichick thinking outside the box, kind of going his own path like he's always done. It's kind of been signature Bill Belichick, is going to pay off in Chapel Hill.
Leanne has been reporting all week from the Navy All-American workouts. The game is coming up on Saturday on NBC. And folks, thanks to Leanne, you're going to be able to watch the game on Saturday, and you're going to know a hell of a lot more about all these players than you would ever know because of Leanne's scouting reports that she's given us here. But you can get a deeper dive on Leanne's X feed. You see it right there. We'll scroll through it as Leanne runs down her notes for this fine Thursday. And we will also, again, direct you toward Leanne's X account. You can follow all of her posts right there. But again, Leanne, it'll be interesting to hear what you had to say about some of the guys that stood out to you today.
Well, today was kind of the day, like I said, day 3, everyone's kind of settled in. Like I said, it's been raining hard, the definitely colder temps. There was no outside practice today, so they moved everybody into the dome. So I got to, obviously, I've been here focused on our 2 Ole Miss signees, Shakai Mills Knight and Winnie Watkins, who are been high high performing guys for the East. But of course, today was really the opportunity for me to take in the West team. A lot of, the Michigan guys, Nebraska guys, Texas guys are on that side of the ball. So it was really nice to be able to get them in the same place and kind of focus on that. Um, Today there was still a lot of explosiveness, but I think everyone's kind of settling in. Like I said, you know how that wintry weather makes you feel. It kind of just makes things coast. And that was kind of the program. There wasn't really anything that was just kind of boom. But again, that doesn't take away from all the type of talent. Oh yeah, that was such a funny picture. You just go back, Ole Miss basketball is doing great things. We know Chris Beard, men's basketball, taking Arkansas down last night. Like I said, for all our Ole Miss stuff, you can head over to Rebel Walk. Got a great team over there, doing stuff. And of course, I highlight recruiting. But yeah, I know I haven't even switched over to basketball yet to get into that mode. But yeah, lots of definitely things going on. You catch our portal show every week, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and all the things from All American Bowl. But again, going back, like I said, I know we talked a lot about the quarterback situation. Quarterbacks, at every level are always going to be essential to every offense. We talked about Bo Bentley. He was kind of the talk of the town and still continues to be the talk of the town. And I'm going to do the Bill Belichick thing and talk a little bit about someone who's really caught my eye. And I'm going to say his name again because today he just really had a strong showing for me. Keyshawn Henderson, Houston commit for 2026. Like I said, he's really coming to this event to try to show that he's made to be a QB. Definitely, he's a unique athlete, played at multiple positions on both sides of the ball, but it looks like, he's really settling to QB. And I took a lot of film, and I'll be posting here later. Like I said, we wrapped up West practice and wanted to jump on here, so we made sure we get everything out. But his downfield arm today, it's just a sight to see. And I really think that he's going to be someone, in the 2026 class. I really think that Willie Fritz has a win here along with their offense if they can continue to keep him as a Houston Cougar. I know that a lot of schools, including Ole Miss, Miami, definitely have tried to ease their way in, and rightfully so, because I just think when you have a player that's played at multiple positions, he definitely can bring that ability as a quarterback to be able to read the storylines, to be able to read the field. And that is really unique. Like I say, when you can get that kind of rarity, and that's why I keep talking about Keyshawn Henderson, because he has those intangibles to make him a very strong quarterback. So again, he's very in lock. What we're of course, like he always says with Houston, definitely going to be a good recruiter for this 2026 class coming out of Legacy Sports and Science School in Houston. So again, Keyshawn Henderson is still my 2026 QB to watch. I know we've talked a lot about Bo Bentley and out of Selena, who just coming off a state championship here in Texas. But again, Keyshawn Henderson is not too far behind as far as 2026 guys. Houston commit. Definitely, that the Cougars aren't going to keep him on lockdown, but he's been really exciting to watch. Like I said, his downfield arm is just a sight. He's got a punch, and I just think his read of the field, in the short game, as long as well in the long game, are just going to be something that I think are going to be really impressive. And like I said, his athletic background is just even more of a 5-star plus for me.
So, in addition to Keyshawn Henderson, I know that the wide receiver group on the west side certainly has impressed you as well.
Yeah, Georgia signee Talon Taylor is a guy that we talked about yesterday. Today he was really productive. Again, one of the go-to wide receivers for both quarterbacks switching in on the west. So definitely Georgia, like I said, not only they definitely have upgraded on their wide receiver room, not just from the transfer portal, but this incoming signee class is just going to be some highlights. Some guys that aren't here today, but that we talked a lot about coming out of Georgia. Tight end, Ethan Barbeau and CJ Wiley will be joining Talon Taylor out in Athens. So again, not only are the Georgia Bulldogs upgrading in the wide receiver room from the transfer portal, but definitely this 2025 signee class is going to be one to watch. And again, Talon Taylor has been that guy and been a favorite target for all the quarterbacks in getting reps during here at the Navy All-American.
I know there's another guy very close to home for you, Jordan Clay, who's making a name for himself as well.
Yeah, it's always good, like I said, when we come to these things, of course, we hear all the national names that we hear, across the recruiting services from 247 on 3. These are the guys, that make the rounds, that have really made a name for themselves on the national circuit. But, when you come to places like San Antonio, who have hosted this event for many, many years, it's always great to see when you have some local guys really shining. And class of 2026, Jordan Clay, out of San Antonio Madison High School here in the Alamo City. He's already a 4-star. It seems that definitely Texas is in the top of his mix. He also has offers from Houston, UTSA, Notre Dame, and Baylor. He's definitely been one to watch. Really consistent today. Really just a physical guy, great pass catcher. So I really think that he's going to, and just really seen a lot of action today, and just been really consistent. He really caught my eye. And like I said, it's always good to see, a local guy right here in his hometown, right here in San Antonio, not just too far off the way, being able to really get seen and have some production. So definitely a lot to look forward to with Jordan Clay out of this 2026 class. Texas, of course, trying to keep him here at home, but a lot of other in-state programs, Baylor, Houston, UTSA, looking to also entice him, in the near future. So, like I said, with winter winding down in spring, we definitely will see a lot of these 2026 guy with this period. I wouldn't be surprised if we'll see some college coaches here, obviously, at the game this weekend, and out and about, because right now we know a lot of programs are out coaching and recruiting and stuff, because now they can make face-to-face visits, visiting current recruits and prospects, and making sure that they're making those relationships. If you've kind of gone down the feed, you can see all the infamous pictures of all the coaches posing in the homes, posing in the high schools of some of the nation's top recruits. So I expect it no different to be here on Saturday. So when we wrap that up, we look forward to bringing that to you as well.
One of the longstanding scouting observations that is pretty obvious with offensive linemen is that they're better run blockers as young players than pass blockers, because it's easier to come off the ball. You're more aggressive run blocking, and to get them to backpedal consistently and do that well and use their hands correctly and keep defenders off of them and at arm's length has been very difficult for a lot of young players. So they take to run blocking typically quicker than pass blocking. But it looks like the next guy here, 6'7", Felix Ojo, is ahead of the game.
He is. He's another 2026, towering size at 6'7". I say he's definitely going to be the next man up. He's a, Texas native. But what really stood out to me, like you mentioned, we usually talk about, run block, but this kid already, and just what we've seen on the one-on-ones and here with him today, he's going to have the makings of being an elite pass blocker. I mean, that's what really catches my attention. And again, it's those little details, it's those intangibles like we see in kids like him that really, I think, will make them separate themselves like the pack. Like I said, when you get at these events, and like when we get here Friday, when you're surrounded by elite talent, and the best players from the country playing at your position, all trying to vie, not only to show their talents and showcase, their talents at the next level. Felix Ojo definitely is one of those guys that has the ability to separate himself, and he's definitely creating that early buzz to separate himself, like you said, not only being, the next man up for his frame, but he's just, like I said, he's already showing the signs of developing into an extremely elite pass blocker. So I know he has a lot of offers. I believe even a lot of SEC schools will be looking at him, but I should be talking more about him. Like I said, today was really kind of the day I was able to take in the West practice and really get to see some of the one-on-ones with the offensive linemen. But again, he's definitely a name that we've heard about on the national circuit, and rightfully so. But like I said, I think he's slowly separating himself as a pack, that he's getting ready to be showing at this time that he's ready to play at that next level, and he's definitely got the makings of an elite pass blocker.
Leanne Herring, Director of Recruiting at the Rebel Walk, and also recruiting analyst here at the Voice of College Football at the Alamo Dome all week to cover the Navy All-American workouts. And then, of course, the game's coming up on Saturday. And you run through the West. Now you're looking at the East. And based on what you've seen, it looks like Notre Dame's in pretty good shape. They're acquiring some excellent talent.
Notre Dame definitely is in very good shape. Like I said, they have a great stage to make some even more guys be looking their way. But again, we saw all season long at the college level, especially in the SEC, just how well a good tight end can do to the offense and what they can do to up things. And Notre Dame signee James Flanagan and Kansas State signee Lincoln Cure have been those type of tight ends today. They've been, I call them kind of the tag team. They both really complemented each other when they were getting reps today. Of course, James Flanagan is just kind of that all-around tight end that can do it all. And then Lincoln Cure is, is that guy too, and just really physical, like I said. So they were my wins for the day. I wanted to give some love to the tight ends because, like I said, we definitely saw how tight ends could change the game in some of those key moments. So again, Notre Dame signee James Flanagan heading out to South Bend, and of course K-State, Kansas State signee Lincoln Cure definitely are looking the part, getting ready to play their last high school football game here in the Alamo City to transition to the collegiate level. But again, Notre Dame is going to be in good shape. When I'm talking about, you talk about some fighting Irish, and we definitely saw it here today. Going back to the offensive tackle, like I said, it's been all about the offense today. And Notre Dame signee Will Black really caught my eye. Again, this was really the day where I could kind of settle in outside some of our other positions because we had more time to watch each side, more in depth. Like I said, there wasn't a lot of going on as far as action. Really, in the third day, they pretty much have kind of settled in. Of course, like I said, these guys are all together. They're an all-star team. Some of them haven't played with each other. Some of them know each other very well. But of course, today was kind of just that day, just kind of going through the reps, kind of getting in the zone, play calling installations. But Notre Dame OT signee Will Black, he was just comfortable. He's one of those big guys up front that, like I said, just got good quick reactions, got an internal radar, really can hone in. But again, what I really like you said about him is that he just moves really well for his size. And for an offensive lineman, like you say, you don't really think of quickness and speediness, but he's got great footwork. And again, the way he reacts and the way he moves with his size, Notre Dame Will Black is definitely going to put some work in and definitely bring some depth to that Notre Dame Fighting Irish offensive line at the offensive tackle position.
Leanne Herring breaking down the Navy All-American workouts from the Alamo Dome there in San Antonio. And keep in mind, again, the show is on the move. And if you know anyone who loves high school football recruiting, also, of course, if you're just a college football fan, then you got to keep up with the transfer portal. And we have been here for you consistently for the last few weeks doing just that. Please subscribe here, dropping the link to the recruiting channel in the chat as well. Check out what we've got available there, where we are simulcasting these shows, and we'll provide more content as well.
And tomorrow, like I said, tomorrow, like I said, is one of my favorite days. Of course, we'll be taking in the East and West final practices. Of course, we don't expect to see a lot of action, just kind of similar today. We'll see how the weather lets up. They're scheduled. West is scheduled to be at Alamo Heights High School, and the East is scheduled to be at Trinity. But again, that could very well change. Of course, tomorrow will be when all the nation's best come in to compete in the national combine. They will be going through typical combine drills. So we'll be bringing a lot of action. Of course, we'll be seeing more from the 2026 guys who aren't participating in the All-American game, but also seeing the next guys up in the 2027s, 2028 classes. So for all you guys out there looking, if you guys know some prospects in any of those classes, please drop them in the comments, and I'll be sure to look through them tonight to see if they'll be here. I've already checked in with some guys that are already and their families already checking in right now. I think that's why things were a little bit more quiet. Everyone's headed to combine registration, checking, who's in, kind of walking that red carpet. So definitely, if there's any guys out there that you guys are interested about knowing from your team, from the 2026, 2027, 2028 prospects, definitely leave their name and we can definitely check in, and I'll make sure to get you guys some feedback on that. Like I said, a lot of prospects coming in. We're already hearing from some Ole Miss, some SEC guys, some ACC guys, and obviously some West Coast and East Coast kids all here. But tomorrow will be a really jam-packed show because, like I said, we'll be getting to scout, talk about some national names from the combine. But like you said, bring in and look at those diamonds in the rough. So tomorrow I'm going to have my Bill Belichick moment, and definitely bring you the guys that you want to know, the high profile 4 and 5 stars that will be here, but definitely going to be looking at those diamonds and routes and scouting some dogs out there, as we like to say. So again, we appreciate you guys joining here all this week. We usually have our regular Tuesday lockdown, but again, the portal has been on the move and we have to be on the move with you. So like I said, like, subscribe, drop those comments so we can bring you the latest and best information from the recruiting trail on all your favorite prospects here at the Voice of College Football.